Welcome to our first TV post-debate coverage. You made it through the whole debate. Congratulations. I wonder how many people did, but join us for the next about hour and 10 minutes or so. We have 5 wonderful guests for the next hour to do our post-debate analysis. If I can just say one thing before we get to our guest, where was that closing statement for the entire last 90 minutes? That's exactly the tone and the message that Trump needed. I guess at least he did get it out at the end. I want to go to the great Eric Bolling right now, 2-time New York Times best-selling author. Eric, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great, and I agree with you, Mike. I think that last, minute and a half, 2 minutes was, I think the first few minutes was his strongest moments and points during the hour and 15-minute debate. Hour and 45-minute debate. I think his closing argument was great. My concern was, I was tweeting straight through that, there was substantial amounts of clarifications and fact-checking Donald Trump, and there was not one single fact check of Kamala Harris, and she dished a ton of lies, not just January 6th lies, Charlottesville lies. There was lie after lie after lie. No one stopped her. It clarified her, but they certainly did Trump. So it was a tough battle. I think Trump killed it on the economy, and they started that way. And then those abortion and race, and it just became those topics that Americans really don't give that much of a hoot about. They care about the economy, they care about crime, they care about the border. It seemed like those were the topics that were kind of condensed, and this is clearly a Disney bias towards Kamala Harris.
Yeah, we will go over, if we have some time later, we'll go over. I counted 7 corrections that the moderators made. Do you remember back in whenever Mitt Romney was running and Candy Crowley made 1 and it was this big outrage? These guys made 7 of them tonight.
I'll take the over.
David Muir,
the over on 7. I mean, there were times where they were just leading her into almost a fact check on her. It was really, really biased. It was almost scripted like a Disney Broadway play. And David Muir does it with such eloquence and such ease. He hit it very well. But I think the media will give her the lamestream media will give her a major props for getting inside. Let's be honest. I'll be honest with you. Ready? He took her bait. He did. He took her bait. She had the nudges, and instead of doing what he did with Biden in the first debate and ignored him and stayed on point on policy, he took her bait. But then some people like to see that. Some people love that angry Trump. Mm-hmm. He was pissed off tonight. I'll be honest with you. I just would have rather have seen the other one. Now he may have tapped into what most Americans are feeling, anger, and why are we talking about race and abortion when the economy's on its ass and our borders wide open and our young women are being raped and murdered in our streets by illegals that she let in. But, there was a point where he said, quiet to her. And I was just like, don't bite. He did a few times, but hey, he's Donald Trump, so.
And she brought up crowd size, and you're like, clearly her bringing up crowd size, you're like, oh, is Trump going to do it? And sure enough, he took an entire 2 minutes talking about crowd size instead of talking about the border bill, the phony border bill that was in D.C., which is the whole basis of Kamala's like, I'm tough on the border and you're not. Other than laying up bait, how do you think Kamala did from her perspective?
Yeah, she was scripted. Everything she delivered was scripted, and she did it well, though. I mean, she read her lines, like I said, almost like a Broadway play, and she did it with a smile. And she started out very shaky. You could hear her voice. She was rattled. Her voice was shaky. She was, squishing a couple of words together. You always tell when someone's nervous on TV when they have a line that should be delivered easily, a common line, and they mess up a couple of words. And she was there at the beginning, but she pulled herself together, gained some confidence, likely because the topics were all geared towards her out of that first topic being the economy. I wish they would have stayed on inflation. I wish they would have talked about energy production. They hit it and quit it on fracking. They didn't fact check her when she said, I've always said I will not ban fracking. Bull crap, horse crap. She clearly said she was going to ban fracking before she said she wasn't going to ban fracking, but for some reason they didn't clarify her on that one either. It was 3-on-1, and I guess you know, he got mad, and that's what people like to see. I would like to see in another Biden 2.0 debate, so to speak.
Oh yeah. David Muir he fact checked Donald Trump's tone on whether or not he was actually sarcastic. And David Muir's like, I don't think you were sarcastic. He's like, well, what is that? But you don't fact check Kamala saying I've always been for fracking?
I think he threw it to Kamala Harris. I didn't hear the sarcasm in that, and then went to Harris, like laying her up for a fat fastball right down the middle for her to hit it over the left field fence.
Well, listen,
the whole debate was that.
I'm worried that like the conservative response is going to only be like, it is a fact that was a biased debate. There's no question. But I'm worried if that's our only analysis, that's kind of like whining. And I don't want that ever to come across like that. Like, we can state that as a fact, but then not just rely on that. Was there any other home run from Trump? And then I'll ask you, was there any missed opportunity that frustrated you?
Yeah, well, I think the Afghanistan, he let her out of the box also. She was there, and she said, I agree with Joe Biden on Afghanistan. And it kind of just laid there for a while and then went away. I mean, 13 military personnel were killed in one of the most horrific military failures in the history of America, and it didn't get much play. And David, I think when you watched it, if you took a step back and go, but look what's happening in our streets. There's drag parades, men acting as women, naked with children walking by on our main streets. There are men acting as women, winning boxing matches, knocking women out, hurting them. And then you go, this woman, Kamala Harris, is supporting all of that behavior and all the crime and all those things, and Trump is against it. But for some reason during that debate, none of that really came to the forefront. I think it's a missed opportunity. It was more her topics, and she was comfortable defending some of the things. And I could just play this out thinking that maybe Trump was told in debate prep, don't fight back on her and those things. And he really didn't. I mean, I wanted him, if he was going to fight back, let's fight back on the topics. But I don't know. They spent like 20 minutes on abortion. Like, polling the American people, is abortion the top issue? No, it's like 10th. They spent, what is it, an eighth of the debate on that, and very little time on crime on our streets. People being raped and murdered by illegal immigrants in our cities.
It was the second.
It was biased. It was gross. Disney got what they wanted.
The second thing they talked about. Yeah, that's right. The second thing they talked about was abortion, right out of the gate after the economy. We only got about 30 seconds. How is the media going to spin this, and how do you think this affects polls moving forward? I'll be straight up with you. I think the media is going to spin it as a Kamala Harris win. I think the polls will reflect the same thing. Look at it like a football game. So Trump's playing Biden for the Super Bowl for all the bananas, right? And he's winning. He's crushing them. And then they replace the quarterback and they put Kamala Harris in. All of a sudden, she throws some long, touchdown passes. The other side gets confident and is doing well until, the rubber starts meeting the road. And, she threw a couple of lucky passes. Now she has to rely on her history, on her policy, and she starts failing because there isn't any. She doesn't know those plays. She doesn't know the playbook, and she's failing. And we saw Trump starting to break out ahead again. The New York Times had him up by 2. It was really 5 because they skewed that poll. Another time we'll talk about that. But I'm concerned that people aren't smart enough to read into what's going on, and they'll see it as just on face value. She had what people would say a good debate. Let's just call it that, and the polls will probably move back her way. Thankfully, there's 55 more days till the election, and he's got a lot of time to really start calling her out for her failures, her lack of policy, and really her lack of knowledge of anything substantial.